Welcome to the John and Rick Talk All About Insurance podcast, the show where two good old boys with over 80 years of combined experience pull back the curtain on what really works in the insurance world. Join John Smyth, industry legend, marathon runner, and top producing agent for nearly 4 decades, and Rick Witcher, proud farmer, regional director, and lifelong relationship builder, as they share stories from the field, interview real agents, and show you how to build a business and a life you love. This ain't corporate. This is real talk from real agents, with a whole lot of laughs, straight up wisdom, and the occasional rabbit trail. Now, here they are, John and Rick.
Hey guys, it's John Smith and
Rick Witcher. How y'all doing today?
We're Group Agent Training. Our goal today is to do our first podcast and just introduce ourselves to you and kind of tell you what we're about. Our goal is to educate you in the insurance business. We're just going to have a normal sit down, good old boy chat, talk about insurance, and then hopefully educate and get people to make more money. And I think the first thing we need to do is kind of tell you our background. So Rick, I'm going to turn it over to you and just let you tell everyone kind of how you got started in the business and bring us up to date to where you are right now, okay?
Well, got into business when my construction business failed back in the early 80s when interest rates hit 13 and a quarter. And I had to find something to do. And the insurance agent that had our group insurance was a family friend, and he kept trying to get me in the business. And that's how it started. I began in the debit business for 7 months, then went into financial planning with New York Life and securities license and everything, and did one payroll group, which of course is what you and I work on, John, is always payroll. One payroll employee whole life with New York Life, and decided that was the thing I liked, and went to work with the Duck, as they're known now. Did that for 6 years, and in 93 came to Life of Alabama and met the illustrious John Smith. And we've been friends ever since, I think,
Love at first sight, wasn't it, Rick?
Yeah, it was, yeah. And we've both been through a lot of some trying times together, as far as we've known each other through trying times. I'll put it that way. Yeah. And been here ever since, and I've never worked for a small company before, as far as small, medium size. Great company. And I love the worksite marketing is what it's known for today, but I love that end of the business. How about you, John?
Well, now you started out in individual sales, then became an agency manager, and you're now regional director. Tell us about that.
Well, I started out in payroll sales with Billy West, my old friend. You remember Billy. Billy was one of my very best friends. After my dad died, he was my best friend. And I was lucky enough to work with him for 28 years until he passed away. And then I took over the region after he passed away. I had worked with him the last 10 years in his office, helping him recruit and train agents. And that was, I learned he was more or less my mentor. I'd been in the business 10 years, but I still really I did not know that much about this business. You were lucky enough to come along. I know you've told me your story and we'll hear it, but you had someone that you could trust.
Yeah.
Most of the time. That's what I'll say about folks. If you come into this business and you don't have someone you can trust, you're in trouble.
Yep.
And that happens to too many people.
I remember, the last 20 years before you and I both became regional directors, you were an agency director and I was too.
Right.
And we
competed.
Number one and number two. I mean,
yeah.
You get to sit at the head table and get the distinguishment of that. And it was always you and I at that head table. I mean, for year after year after year, we had a great competition going on. And then I became regional director, then you became regional director, and we're still top 3 every year of regional directors.
Right.
And I think the competition promotes us to do more business and makes us
it drives
more
us.
Successful. It drives you. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll never forget, we were on a cruise in San Francisco Bay, a dinner cruise. And John came up to me and he goes, as long as it's just you or I that's the top agency, I don't care.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, you gotta keep it between the family, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you my story. I went to college at Tennessee Tech. Started in 1979 there, and I had to have a job. Ronald Reagan, back when you're talking about what he did with the construction, he cut out student loans. We had a 300-acre farm, so I had to have money. And so I was actually on my way to an appointment to sell encyclopedias with Britannica door to door. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
That's obsolete now. And I joined a fraternity when I first came into college. My parents were against that because they thought all I was going to be doing was drinking and carousing, which they were correct. And so the fraternity advisor came to me and said, I heard you're looking for a job. Why don't you come talk to me about the insurance business? And it was just a bed of roses. He painted the best picture I could have imagined. And I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. It took 6 months before I got my first paycheck. And I was selling life insurance to graduating seniors from college there. And they got to defer their payments. And then they had a note that came due in 5 years, but they had an annuity that paid the note. It was a real simple process. And then I started having people asking me for health insurance and dental and vision and the other kind of things that you're used to selling in this business. So I went away from just doing just life insurance to doing that. Rick, back in 81, 82, when I was writing a lot of individual health insurance, there was a company out of Texas. That's where a lot of these companies started, that you could sell an individual health plan for $50 a month. They had a $100 deductible,
Mm-hmm.
500 out of pocket, and it'd pay $500,000 a year claim. No copays, no prescription cards like the plans used to be. And it was $50 for an individual, 150 for a family. You made 45% commission. Those commission rates aren't there on health insurance now. But man,
Right.
I couldn't give it away quick enough. But I got started in that, and then Wayne Sharon, one of the other regional directors that you and I both know in Arkansas, hired me to come in with Life Insurance Company of Alabama in 1981, and he did nursing homes across the state of Alabama. And I went to some god awful hotels that's by a dog racetrack with dog hairs and anything you can imagine, sharing bathrooms with people on the same floor, and these kind of rundown houses and stuff that have been converted to hotels. But I got my feet wet with the associations, and when I moved back to Morristown, this was back when you could get advanced commissions, and I'd go out and have a good week, and I'd get a check for $2,000 or $3,000. I'd be at the bar every night and didn't work. I mean, I was spending my money right and left and having a good time, and then money got low. I'd go back to work. Then I hired two ladies to come to work for me to sell. They were doing cancer insurance door to door. And first question out of their mouth was, "Where's your office?" And I went, "Oh, wow, I don't have one." So I opened up an office, hired a secretary, became responsible. And from there, I started building and adding agents, and we started working with associations, as we call it now. And it wasn't too long, I started making the trips with Life in Alabama. I think you and I met each other. We were somewhere in Arizona or something, or
Met you on.
Lake Tahoe.
Nope, Phoenix.
Phoenix. Okay, we were in Phoenix, Scottsdale area, I think.
Yep,
And
Scottsdale. That's right.
we've been best friends ever since. We've been competitive with each other. Rick's not bragging about himself, but I don't mind bragging about him because I think he's very dear to my heart and very special. The last 30 years, I've either been the number one or number two agent with the company, which means everybody asks, what do I do that's different? And it's not different. I just do more of it. You go out and make 10 calls
You
a day.
work.
I'm making 15 calls a day. That's the secret to this. You just have to be diligent and you have to be willing to work. I take stuff at home at night. You have to continue to do that. We're recruiting agents, Rick and I are now, and that's been a challenge because some of these states like Texas and Florida, some of these states have so many people in them that we're talking every day. We're talking to 15 or 20 agents, and we're trying to teach them what Rick and I have been doing all these years that's made us very successful in this business. And Rick, I don't know if you'll agree with this, but I think you will. Success rubs off when you're around
Oh, yeah.
successful people.
If you're around
You become
successful
successful.
people, that's right,
Don't you agree
John.
with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the things that's driven both of us, I think, is competition, but it's good competition. We trust each other and know that unlike a lot of companies that I've worked for in the 10 years I was in the business before I came here, because I came here in 93, where you couldn't trust other agents. You and I have, John's walked into groups that one of my agents had over the years, and he'd call me and say, "Hey, this group needs some service. You need to call this guy and get it done, get something done." We don't have to worry about that. And, there are a lot of companies that are not that way. We both know. We won't talk about them, but
Absolutely. Well, we might in a future podcast talk about the competition and stuff like that. But again, our podcasts are really designed to be funny. We're not going to sit around and tell jokes and dirty jokes and stuff like that all the time. We're going to have humor. We're just two good old Southern boys, and there's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with that. We're not rednecks. We're not hillbillies. We're just down to earth people. We've been very successful in the business, so we're going to share ideas with you. We're going to try to help you make more income, but we're also going to talk about topics that are going to be things that you want to hear about.
SEC football is coming up.
Yes, sir. Hopefully you'll tune into our podcast. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be entertaining, and I think it's going to be very educational. And if you miss them, they'll be out there. I think we're going to plan on doing one at least every 2 weeks, so they'll be out there that you can view those kind of things. Rick, wrap us up here. I think that we've just about done all our introductions that we need to do. Except we've not talked about our family. I want you to talk about the love of your life, Teresa, and your kids and things of that nature. I think that's always important.
I've got 5 grown kids now and 6 grandkids. My wife, Teresa, she did cancer research for years. She loved that. She probably would like to do that again, but right now that's not working out. But we've been married now 17 years. I don't think, like John and I know each other well, and I don't think Stephanie or Teresa, either one, probably had a chance in our minds when we married them.
You're right.
They may have thought they did, but they stuck it out.
Good girls.
Yeah.
Tell us about your kids. What do they do?
Well, one of them is actually working on this podcast right now. Wes, that's his job. My oldest daughter has a tattoo business in Nashville, and quite frankly, when I found out what she makes, because she's got 5 or 6 folks at her place there, I said, wow, I should have gotten the tattoo business. I mean, this business is great, but good Lord, $300 or $400 an hour is pretty good money.
Yeah, that's attorney money.
And then my youngest daughter, Shannon's the oldest. Wes is number 2. He's the one that's working on the podcast with us right now. And then my youngest daughter runs my office. My stepson is a cook in a local restaurant, wants to start his own business. And then my youngest son works for a government contractor in IT. He was in the Navy for 4 or 5 years and worked up at the National Security Agency. So now he does government contracts for the Navy. You tell us a little about you, John.
Well, I've been married a few times, but the love of my life I met because I recruited her in the insurance business about 25 years ago. She had a property and casualty company in North Knoxville, and wrote a couple of groups with us, and then didn't do anything like a lot of people in the business, and found out she was divorced, and we went out on a couple of dates, and I had a bike wreck and broke the whole left side of my body and was in the hospital for a week and out of work for 4.5 months. And she came to the hospital, moved in with me, nursed me back to health, and then I realized that I couldn't have done that, and that I probably ought to keep her around, according to my parents.
Yeah.
And so I did, and we've been married. I think we're coming up on it's 14 years in April. We just got married.
Wow, doesn't seem that long.
So we're both still newlyweds. And then she's got 2 sons. She's got a Wes as well. He's out in Memphis area, and his wife Mia. She's a vet, and Wes is the.
Well, now Wes is in Grand Junction, right?
Yeah, he's in Grand Junction.
Yeah,
out West Tennessee. He's the director of a private school. But then her second oldest is Brad, and his wife Janae. Brad works at Y12, and Janae's a charge nurse at the hospital there. She's got a lot of responsibility. Mia and Wes have 4 kids. Brad and Janae have 2 kids. Then I've got a daughter, Michaela, who's getting married in about 10 days to a police officer, and they've got a daughter. And then my youngest is Wilson, excuse me, and he's going to get married soon. They're engaged to
Yeah.
a young lady. Christina's very nice, and she's got a little girl. But then we adopted actually one of our agents. I know that sounds a little out of course for most, but her dad was in the business, and I've wrote his insurance for a long time and didn't know the two of them were even related. And when she came to work for us, we figured out that her dad and I were good friends. We met her mom, who was going through a lot of issues with her health. And she pulled me aside one day and she goes, Ben would have wanted you to raise her like your own. And so we kind of adopted Courtney, which is
Wow.
really one that'll help us talk about
Yeah.
some topics on here. And she's got two kids and she's out in West Tennessee. So we've got a lot of family stretched out over the place, don't
Well,
we?
the Grand Junction thing, for those of you that don't know, that's where the bird dog field trials are held every year. And I
Yeah.
grew up, my dad had bird dogs and he raised and trained bird dogs, and we hunted back when there were quail in Mississippi. And I hunted on a regular basis with our bird dogs, and that's how I know Grand Junction well.
What's your hobbies? What do you do now, Rick?
Well, I raise cows
Okay.
and still have a few horses. Don't ride much anymore. You remember the accident? I was right after Teresa and I got married a couple of years, and that horse, I thought wasn't anything I couldn't ride back when I was young. And I have to tell this story. I'm in the hospital after 3 days in ICU, and they put me in a room, and Teresa was actually working at University Medical Center in Jackson, Ole Miss's medical school then. And she said, they put me in a room and she was there, and I said, I've been thrown like that 1,000 times. And she goes, you wasn't 56 years old. Well, she's 11 years younger than I am, and that didn't help things at all. And I learned that I don't bounce like I did when I've actually got a quote on the wall from Roy Rogers at home that says, when I was young and I got thrown, I bounced. Now I splatter. And that's kind of what happened to me. Broke me all up. Life Alabama paid a big claim on it.
Yeah, I remember that. We both had we're both poster childs for
Yeah, we are.
waiting to happen, aren't we?
Yep. And
But you've got a farm. You still farm too, don't you?
oh yeah, we've still got 3 horses, and I'll ride now and then, but not much.
Yeah.
But I've got cattle. Started. It's just a small place, but sell a lot to local folks. But wish I had a whole pen full on them right now. And folks, I can tell you something. If you think hamburgers high now, those cows were sold at the sale barn to fatten up for $1.80 to $2 a pound, because it takes about 2 years to get them ready.
Yeah.
I sold some in the last 2 months at $5 a pound. So if you're paying $6 a pound for ground beef now, it'll be 15
Oh yeah, it's going to go up
in
a
2
lot.
years.
Yeah.
That's
Well, back when you and I first met, Rick, I was a runner, and
That's
was
right.
when I was in real good health and probably 50 pounds lighter, and I was running 60, 70 miles a week, and then started having some heart issues and had that bad wreck on the bike, and then my Achilles had to be replaced, and so I went from a runner to a cornhole player, and so you'll find me most nights or weekends somewhere drinking a beer or playing cornhole somewhere, and hopefully winning some money. I think I'm considered semi-professional at that, but it's just something to do. Replaces the running.
Yeah, you
And,
got to have something.
Yeah, you got to have something to do to take your mind off everything else.
And both of us are avid SEC fans. I went to Ole Miss. John's a big Tennessee fan.
Tennessee fan. Stephanie's brother played inside linebacker, All-American at UT.
Okay.
Graduated in 79, 80, right around there, and then got drafted by the Cowboys and played with Too Tall Jones and Roger Staubach and all those folks. So,
Yeah.
she's definitely Cowboys and Tennessee, but Tennessee more importantly. She watches football on Saturday mornings when game day comes on at 9 o'clock until the West Coast game goes off. I've never seen a woman that likes football more than a man, but that is my wife through and through.
Well, that's probably the reason she and Teresa get along, because Teresa's the same way.
Absolutely.
She was actually a Tennessee fan when I met her, and she came to my house in an orange Tennessee jersey, and I said, you can't come in.
You're not allowed in here.
And she said, what do you mean? I said, Tennessee fans can't come in the house. After stealing Peyton, that always bothered me.
I know.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to go watch Archie play when when I was a kid, my uncle would take me over, and I think that we had a deer camp over in Oxford too. So I was over there all the time hunting, and we duck hunted over there. So I grew up in Tupelo, about 60 miles from Oxford. So.
Yeah. Well, folks, I think that's wrapping up our first podcast. I hope y'all got a little entertainment out of that and found out a little bit about Rick and myself. Hopefully you'll tune in for the next one. We're not sure what the topic's going to be yet, but tune in and find out. And Rick, sign us out. You got a signature
guys,
you want to do, or?
I don't have anything in particular other than we'll think of some funny things that we might tell some funny stories on each other. We've had a lot of fun over the years.
Well, folks, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. This is John and
Rick. See you guys.
Thank you.